Hi everybody, it's Josh with Talk About Trek, and we are back with a TOS book today, Star Trek Enterprise, The First Adventure by Vonda McIntyre. So let's jump right in with the back cover, which is... He was the youngest man to captain a starship in Federation history. His crew included an untried first officer and a maverick ship surgeon. In the years to come, the voyages of Captain James T. Kirk and the USS Enterprise would become legend. But before their historic 5-year mission began, before the crew meshed into the superb unit that would journey across the galaxy, before the legend took shape, there was the mission that brought them together for the first time. Here at last is that untold story. The first voyages of Captain Kirk, Mr. Spock, Dr. McCoy, and all the rest of the Enterprise crew, the most eagerly awaited Star Trek adventure of them all. That's what it says on the back. First thing is, this is the first of the giant novels that were put out by Pocket Books, the first in the unnumbered series, so that's good. It's also got this very interesting cover here where you've got the cutout of the Enterprise, and then you can open it up to get inside to see and this is the cover you have on the dust jacket of the hardcover as well, but it's extended and there's even more, so beautiful work there. But Star Trek Enterprise, what is this book about? So, as I read, this is Kirk's first command of the Enterprise. He's just coming off of a mission that went badly where he was injured, Gary Mitchell was injured, but through his reckless action, he was able to save the crew of that ship, even though I believe the ship was lost. So he is commended, and Captain Pike is being promoted. So the Enterprise is given to Kirk. So here's the story of Kirk's first command of the Enterprise. And you're thinking, wow, it's going to be something awesome, right? He's going to be going and working out some kind of peace deal or first contact, something like that. But no, the actual first mission of the Enterprise is a goodwill tour of the star bases along the the Klingon Federation border. In this area of space they call the Phalanx, which is kind of a tip of Federation space, and there's a star bases there, and the Admiral would like Kirk and the Enterprise to go on this kind of goodwill mission. He thinks it would give Kirk a chance to kind of get used to the crew, get used to the ship, and it's something that these people on this starbase out here need, I guess. And on that goodwill mission, he's going to be taking a vaudeville troupe with him. So that is actually basically more than the first half of this book is just Kirk getting to know the ship, getting to know the crew, and then the kind of getting into these zany misadventures with this vaudeville troupe that is on board. And it kind of plays right into the kind of funniness that you remember seeing in TOS, just kind of like just weird, silly things going on. At one point, you've got a guy who's got a troop of trained poodles, and he brings them onto the bridge, and they're all kind of running around. The main manager of the vaudeville troupe is one of the, I guess I would say, the main characters of the book. Her name is Lindy, and she has a pegasus. Yes, that's right. This book has a pegasus in it. And Pegasus is something I guess they explained was genetically engineered on Earth at a time, and now she just kind of takes care of it and is part of the show there. So, like I said, the first half of the book is basically them on their way to the first starbase to do the first vaudeville show. And in that time, you get Kirk kind of misstepping in a lot of places, saying a lot of things wrong. There's an interesting little story they have with Janice Rand, and it kind of gives some backstory on her, which I thought was kind of cool. But really the focus is on this vaudeville troupe and like the crew kind of work with them and get ready. So the interesting things that happen is there is a Vulcan juggler, and his name is Steven. Now that just tickled my brain the whole time. Like, how are you going to have a Vulcan and you're just going to give him the name Steven? So anyway, Steven the Vulcan juggler, he is also part of this vaudeville troupe here, and he is somehow known to Spock. They have some kind of mysterious past that they don't reveal at this time, but Spock is not exactly he seems to think that Steven might be or he knows that Steven is like a Vulcan that seeks like an emotional time, I guess I should say. So they don't quite get along, but So those are like the main characters there. You have Lindy and Steven. You have a couple of other different characters from this vaudeville troupe. In the book, also, this is they do kind of focus a little bit on Sulu as well, and this is his first posting to the Enterprise, and he didn't even want to be on the Enterprise in the first place. He was expecting a different posting entirely. So they do focus on him a little bit and his fencing, which is really cool. And also, this is the book which gave him his first name, Hikaru. So that was cool. I read that on I think on the memory beta. But so it's the first appearance of his first name, which was made, into canon later. So you have this book about the Enterprise flying a vaudeville troupe to different star bases, and you are over halfway through the book thinking that, boy, this is really all this is going to be. They do throw in a couple little chapters of this Klingon renegade woman named Koronin, who is she has stolen some kind of high-tech Klingon vessel, but it's very small parts, so it just kind of jumps in here and there, and you're thinking, okay, so here's what's going to happen in the end. This Klingon is going to come in, and that's where you're going to have your conflict in the end. But then, oh no, they throw you for the biggest left turn, where basically on the way to the starbase, they are thrown out of warp because they run into this massive, what they call a world ship. And they describe it as looking like interconnected soap bubbles with an illuminated kind of skeleton. So just imagine a big conglomeration of bubbles, kind of pearl-like, they say, but about half the size of Earth. So this thing, they say, is about 7,000 kilometers long, and it wasn't there before. It didn't show up any long-range scans, and just kind of popped into existence there and threw them out of warp space, and also did some damage to their system, so they're not going to be able to immediately get back into warp. And of course, the same thing also happened to the Klingon Koronin. Her ship also was going in that same direction and was knocked out of warp space. So now we have really where this book picks up and gets so good. At first, I was just kind of liking it. Interesting story. You've got a Pegasus on the Enterprise, some silliness. But now it goes full-on sci-fi. So you've got this world ship, and they reach out, they make first contact with this race of creatures that they dubbed the Flyers, who are vaguely humanoid-looking people, just kind of maybe wispier. They live in a smaller G, so they're kind of thinner, and they have a protruding nose and jaw, and something that looks like a mustache, but is actually just a part of their face. So that kind of gives you a picture of these strange mustachioed aliens. And they sing. So they don't communicate through speech. They communicate through these incredible, deep, and wild singing that just goes on and on through multiple tones. And Uhura is just in love with all this, and immediately is enraptured with this language. So they're not able to communicate through talking. So they kind of through kind of sending stick figures back and forth, say, hey, can we come over and see ya? And they do. Kirk and I think Spock and a couple others go over there to this world ship, which basically is just a planet, but on a ship. And it was really hard for me to picture in my head exactly what it was, but I guess I was just picturing all these different individual bubbles, and then there's these different individual worlds and lands in these bubbles. So it's a concept that I like because it makes you think. You're sitting there, you're going back and you're reading it again, how she describes it, what is this thing exactly? What does it look like? So, and the inhabitants themselves, the Flyers, also very interesting. So after the away team goes over there and visits, then they come back to the ship and visit, and that's when things kind of get really out of hand. When they beam them to the ship, they forget for a moment about the gravity. And Spock goes to catch one because of the G's, the increased G's. It's fallen. Spock catches it. Incidental mind meld contact. So Spock is knocked out, but through the contact, the alien, who takes the name of Scarlet, is able to learn Federation Standard. So she's able to learn Federation Standard. Now they can actually talk and converse. And at first, it seems like they're almost like children. they're kind of like fascinated by everything. So it makes you think, and then the crew thinks too, that they're not quite as technologically advanced as the Federation is. But man, that's not the case at all. It's just that they are so advanced, they're like on a completely different level, that they don't even like think or worry about their technology. It just exists and works for them, and they're like living in this whole different plane of like the mind and sound and song. And see, it's concepts like this which keep me coming back to all these Star Trek books. But the conflict in the book comes, of course, when Spock, who was knocked out, when he wakes up, he's kind of sucked in a little of these creatures' mind, and it's a lot for him, and it kind of drives him to madness. And he actually escapes the Enterprise, gets in one of these creatures' ships, flies back to the world ship, and is on a mission to basically go and heal himself at the place where these flyers would normally go and heal themselves. In the meantime, there's some other kind of shenanigans going on. This Steven the Vulcan, he convinces Lindy to take the Pegasus Athene over to the world ship as well, because Athene needs to stretch her wings and fly around a little bit. So, but it's leading up to something very interesting and very fun. So, just kind of bear with it. Again, the concept is so cool that you just want to keep reading it on. So, Spock is there. He's looking for healing. Now, Kirk and them know that he's there, so they're kind of going there to rescue him. The other problem is that this world ship is drifting into Klingon territory, and the rest of the Klingon fleet is now coming to search for this stolen Klingon ship. So, as Kirk is looking for Spock and Kirk is looking for Lindy and Athene, the world ship is drifting closer and closer into enemy territory, and the Koronin, the renegade Klingon, has actually basically, she landed on the world ship and she says, I claim this world ship for my own. And for whatever reason, walks up to the side of one of these bubbles, cuts it with her sword, and it just blows her back and knocks her out. So, they learn at that point, basically, that's how this thing defends itself. So, equal force for force. If you punch it, it's going to punch you back. If you cut it, it's going to knock you back. And that's what it did. So, Spock sees that and kind of knows what's going on there, even though he's still in a kind of a weird state. So he's trying to find this place where he can heal himself, all right? And now everybody knows he's there, and they're looking for him. And they get down to basically the middle of this place, the middle of the world sphere. And it's this kind of like barren landscape with this one tall mountain. And Spock climbs up to the top of this mountain, and he's standing up there, and he's getting ready to fall. And that's just when Kirk and company kind of come in there. Luckily, Lindy and her Pegasus Athene are there as well, which sets up this wonderful scene. Which if I would have just said this to you when I started, you'd been like, no, that's not going to happen in this book. You're being ridiculous. But Kirk, seeing Spock about to tumble from the mountain, climbs astride the Pegasus, flies through the air, reaches out his hand, and rescues Spock at the very last moment, throwing him on the back of the Pegasus and bringing him down for a close landing. Right, that's actually what happens. I almost just want to end it right there. Like, hey, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. But no, it's almost like she wanted to put the Pegasus in the book just so she could write that fun scene of Kirk flying up there and saving Spock from falling off a mountain. So yeah, you have that image in your head now. Kirk flying a Pegasus, rescuing Spock, about to fall off of a mountain. So after that, they kind of work things out with the Klingons. Hold on. This is actually very interesting. So they are able to get out of the world ship. Spock is fine. He's rescued. Everyone's kind of getting back to their ships. On the way back, they see that this Koronin has decided to launch a suicide attack against the world ship. And Spock basically realizes that if she runs her ship into the world ship is going to pretty much blow up a large portion of the Klingon Empire in response. Kirk, seeing this going down, realizes he has to stop it, but he has to stop it in a way not just blasting with weapons. So he comes in with his shuttlecraft, and like at the very last minute, flies her off, and that's kind of like the climax of the action. The Klingon Empire is saved. Kirk is rewarded with a medal, And the vaudeville troupe performs for both the Klingon crews and the Federation crew at the end, and makes for a very interesting and kind of fun ending as well. So, yeah, this book went all kinds of places. It really did. What I will say, though, is it was incredibly unexpected. It starts you out on one thing, and then it just takes you and you go completely in a different direction, and it gets super fun and exciting right towards the end. It's just like kind of a ride that picks up, and then just goes whoom, and it goes the other way, and you have a lot of fun with it. So if you're looking for a fun TOS adventure, now this is not going to have the camaraderie, of course, that you're going to recognize normally from the crew when you're reading one of these books, because they're all just getting to know each other. But it's just such an interesting adventure, and you have Kirk riding a pegasus. I mean, what else do you really need? And just the concept of the world ship, the inhabitants of the world ship. I'm still thinking about it, and I probably will be thinking about it until I start the next book, which will be probably tonight. So I don't have much more time to think about it. But man, very interesting, and a very fun concept, and look forward to definitely reading more by Vonda McIntyre, who I think did not too many more Trek novels, but did some of the novelizations of the movies and some things like that. So, yeah, that was a good one and a surprising one. So, as always, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Live long and prosper, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.